Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Movesets video. Today's video is going to be all about Bewear, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Bewear is a normal fighting type Pokemon, much like Mega Lopunny, that possesses 3 abilities, the first of which being its signature ability in Fluffy, which halves the damage of contact moves while simultaneously doubling the damage of fire type moves. The good thing though in all of this is that if it is a contact fire move, much like most physical fire moves are, this Pokemon will just take normal neutral damage from that, which is really good because otherwise this Pokemon would have a very glaring weakness to fire type attacks. As for its next ability though, it is known as Klutz, which is an ability that allows this Pokemon to ignore its item, and then its last ability is Unnerve, which allows this Pokemon to make it so that its opponents cannot use any of the berries that they are holding. As for the stats though, this Pokemon is pretty much the epitome of a physical tank, possessing base 120 HP, base 80 defense, and 60 special defense, allowing it to take hits pretty well because of that really high base HP stat, but also having a base 125 physical attack, allowing it to hit very hard on the physical side. Its special attack, however, is only base 55, so you won't really be making use of that, and it is on the slower end of speed, being only base 60. However, this is still kind of in that middle range where running a Scarf on it can be good and very useful if you choose to do so, because this Pokemon with a Scarf will still be outspeeding a ton of things, even though it is a lower speed Pokemon. But with that, let's take a look at the first set that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to begin by giving Bewear a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and going with the Fluffy ability. As to the EVs, we're going to max out its physical attack and its speed with 252 EVs into both of those stats, and put the remainder 4 EVs to do its special defense. And for the item, either going with a Choice Scarf to boost its speed, a Choice Band to boost its damage, a Life Orb to also boost its damage but allow you to use your moves freely at the cost of losing 10% of your health every time you damage your opponent, an Expert Belt to boost the damage of your super effective moves, a Silk Scarf to boost the damage of your normal type attacks, an Assault Vest to boost your special defense, or leftovers to allow you to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, which is actually not that bad of an item on this Pokemon as well, because it has just some natural physical bulk to it with its high HP stat and the Fluffy ability. As to the moves though, the first one that we're going to go with is going to be our main stab fighting type move in either Superpower or Hammer Arm. Both of these moves unfortunately have a drawback of lowering your stats after you use them, with Superpower lowering your physical attack and physical defense, and Hammer Arm lowering your speed. However, these are the 2 strongest fighting type moves this Pokemon has access to, so it's really whichever one you think is most useful. Though do keep in mind that even though we're running a ton of speed on this set, with a Hammer Arm under your belt lowering your speed stat, this Pokemon is going to still be pretty slow even with all the speed EVs, but it's still a very viable option if you're against a team that is pretty slow. As for the next move though, we're going to be running a stab normal move in either Return for most consistent damage, Double Edge for the strongest move, but having the negative side effect of recoil, or Facade as a way to allow this Pokemon to potentially damage things through a burn status that it might be inflicted with that would normally cripple itself in its ability to do physical damage. As for your next move though, we're either going to go with Earthquake or Ice Punch as another coverage option to allow this Pokemon to hit various things that the first 2 moves cannot, even though it is important to note that the Dual Stab is very good on its own. But Ice Punch is really good for things like Landorus or Gliscor and stuff like that, whereas Earthquake can be very useful against a variety of other Pokemon that Superpower and Return wouldn't cover. And for the last move slot, I'm going to throw Ice Punch on there again in case you chose Earthquake for the 3rd move. We're also going to throw Shadow Claw on there because it'll allow you to hit the ghost types that are immune to both your fighting and normal moves super effectively, or we can run Pain Split in this last move slot to allow this Pokemon to effectively heal itself by leeching off of its opponent's HP and allow it to last longer in battle. Now there is another way that you can run this moveset, actually 2 more ways, and the first option which you are seeing right now is the more bulky variant to make use of this Pokemon's high HP stat. So in this variant, we're going to give it a Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then change up the EV spread slightly to include 208 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and 48 speed EVs to give this Pokemon enough speed to outspeed base 65 speed Pokemon that it falls just short of outspeeding with its base 60 speed stat. Now there's also another way to run this, which is including this Pokemon on a Trick Room team. So the way that we're going to switch this up is by, instead of an Adamant Nature, giving it a Brave Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its speed, and then running an EV spread of 252 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and 4 special defense EVs. Either of these options, or all three of these options for that matter, are very useful and allow this Pokemon to fit a variety of teams and allow you to use Bewear as a powerful physical attacker in many different ways. As for this next moveset, we're going to be running Bewear more as a boosting attacker. So we're going to start it off this time by giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and then give it the Fluffy ability again, along with a offensive EV spread of 252 physical attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs. As for the item on this set though, we're either going to run a Life Orb to do some more damage, or Leftovers to allow this Pokemon to recover HP while it attempts to set up and damage its opponents. But for the first move on this set, we're going to run Swords Dance as a way to boost our physical attack by 2 stages, or Substitute as a way to allow us to get behind a protective barrier to shield us from attacks and statuses, and more easily make use of our attacking moves. Either of these options here allows this Pokemon some more possibilities in what it's able to defeat and match up well against, and allows Bewear just to have some different roles depending on which of these moves you use. As to your next attack though, we're either going to run Superpower and Hammer Arm like before to be your strongest damaging fighting type move, but I'm also going to include Force Palm on here as well, which is another move that this Pokemon has access to that has a chance to paralyze opponents, which, because we're not potentially running a Choice Scarf on this set, can be very useful to allow this Pokemon to paralyze something and then outspeed it on the following turn. As for the next move though, we're going to run either Return or Double Edge to be your main stab normal type move, and then for the third move slot, either run Ice Punch or Shadow Claw for additional coverage, or Pain Split as a way to again recover HP back and allow this Pokemon to last for a bit longer. It's also important to note that if using Substitute with Pain Split on this set, you effectively allow yourself a way to not only shield yourselves from anything that Substitute blocks, but also regain the HP that you've lost from making the Substitute. And just to mention this again, this Pokemon does have very large HP stat, so the substitutes that you're going to be making with Bewear are going to be very, very big. But another way to run this moveset, just like with the first one, is a more bulky variant, and it's going to be doing the same exact thing where we're switching up the nature to be Adamant, and the EV spread to include 208 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and 48 speed EVs. Also, like the first set, we can include this same moveset on a Trick Room team and just changing up the nature and EV spread like before to include it with a Brave Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its speed, and then running the EV spread of 252 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and putting the remainder 4 EVs into this Pokemon's special defense. As for this next moveset, we're going to be running more of a bulky boosting set for Bewear to run. So we're going to start this one off by giving it either an Impish Nature to increase your physical defense but lower your special attack, or a Careful Nature to increase your special defense but lower your special attack. Again, we're going to go with the ability Fluffy, and for the EVs this time, putting 208 into its HP, 252 into either its physical or special defense, and then putting the remainder 48 EVs into its speed, and using the Leftovers item to allow you to recover HP while you attempt to set up. And the setup move for this set is going to be Bulk Up, which will be increasing your physical attack and your physical defense by 1 stage every time you go for it. And this is where choosing which EV spread you go with really comes into play. If you go with a physical defensive EV spread and using Bulk Up, you're almost guaranteed to be able to easily set up versus physical attackers, barring that they have a very powerful super effective move to use against you. But if you go with the specially defensive one, this could give you a little bit more options of what you can potentially set up on, so it's important to know the options of which EV spread works better for the team that you want to be using this type of Bewear on. But for your main attack on the set, which is going to be your fighting type move, again, we're either going to go with Superpower, Hammer Arm, or Force Palm, which is what those are abbreviated to. I had to do that because it wasn't going to fit on the line otherwise. But Superpower is interesting on this set in particular because of the fact that it essentially cancels out Bulk Up, so you more or less are breaking even and not having to worry about being weaker as a result of that. But if you don't want to waste your attack boosts or your defense boosts, Hammer Arm and Force Palm are definitely the better options there. Both are powerful in their own right. Hammer Arm does lower your speed, whereas Force Palm is significantly weaker, but has a chance to paralyze your opponents. But for your second attacking option, we're going to run either Return or Facade to be your main normal type move, Return, again, being the more powerful one, but Facade being the one to allow you to still be damaging even if you do get burned, or running Shadow Claw in this move slot as well to allow you a better type coverage overall between that and your fighting move, because if you just run a fighting and normal type attack on this set, you're going to be completely walled by ghost types, which could be good in itself if you do give this Pokemon some pursuit trapping support, but more often than not, having the extra type coverage of Shadow Claw could potentially come into play. But for the last move on the set, we're either going to run Pain Split as a way to allow this Pokemon to recover HP while it tries to set up, or running Substitute to give it an even easier time to set up on this moveset, because you'll be getting behind a protective barrier to shield you from attacks and statuses while you boost your stats. And it's also important to note that because this Pokemon has such a high HP stat, its substitutes cannot be broken by Seismic Toss, which is very cool and gives it a little bit of an easier time to set up versus certain Pokemon, but also with the bulk ups increasing your physical defense, your substitutes over time in combination with your HP, your defense EVs, and your fluffy ability will become very difficult to break. As for this last moveset, we're going to be running a more defensive-oriented Bewear like in the previous set, but instead of doing that to allow us an easier time to boost our stats, we're going to do this to make Bewear last for a very long time in battle. So again, we're going to be going with an Impish or Careful Nature to boost your physical defense but lower your special attack, or boost your special defense but lower your special attack, and going with the fluffy ability, and the same EV spread on the previous set of 208 HP EVs, 252 physical defense or special defense EVs, depending on if you want to run this Pokemon physically defensive to really augment its great physical bulk, or especially defensive to allow it to take special hits better and also make use of its natural good physical bulk because of its HP, defense stat, and fluffy ability, and then running the remainder 48 EVs into its speed, and going with an item this time of either leftovers to allow you to recover HP at the end of every turn, or a Rocky Helmet as a way to get some more residual damage on your opponents when they make contact with you, which is also important to note because anything that's going to be getting Rocky Helmet damage will also be having its damage reduced by Fluffy, which is a very cool combination to go with. But for the moves on this set, we're going to be focusing on allowing Bewear to last for a long time, status things, and also shuffle them around to possibly rack up entry hazard damage or potentially stop a sweep that your opponent is attempting to set up for. So for the first move on the set, we're going to be going with Force Palm as a way to not only damage opponents with a strong fighting type move, but also have a chance to paralyze them, which could cripple them throughout the battle, allowing another member of your team an easier way to deal with it, or even allowing Bewear to outspeed it and damage it more easily. But for the second move, we're going to be running Roar as a way to shuffle things around on your opponent's side of the field, possibly racking up entry hazard damage every time they get forced in, and also allowing this Pokemon to potentially stop a setup sweeper by roaring them out so that their stat boosts are lost. And this works particularly well against physical attackers because of this Pokemon's natural physical bulk, so it allows you a very easy way to possibly get rid of those stat boosts that a physical attacker has acquired, but also could work as a special attack blocker as well if you're running these special defense EVs on this Pokemon. But for the last two moves on this set, we're going to be running Rest and Sleep Talk as the famous combination of allowing us to not only heal up our HP all the way, but also damage things and shuffle them around while we are asleep through the use of the Sleep Talk move. And the other cool thing about this is that Roar does not have negative priority when it is picked by Sleep Talk, which is very cool if you have already paralyzed things, because this could effectively allow you to just shuffle stuff around while you're asleep and not ever get damaged if your opponent is now slower than you because of the paralysis they received from Force Palm. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. This Pokemon is certainly one of the coolest and most interesting new Pokemon introduced in this generation, and has a lot of options from very powerful offensive sets to also very useful defensive ones. But as I said, that is it, everybody, so as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.